Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Sarah Landrum. I am the Community Financial Educator here at DCCU. And over the last several months, we've offered a series of webinars about credit topics. And the information has actually been brought to you by a joint effort between the Credit Unions Care Foundation of Virginia and DCCU. The Credit Unions Care Foundation was founded in 2009, and their primary purpose is to help credit unions in Virginia further their social mission. So in 2015, the foundation launched the Smart Credit Check campaign in hopes to teach consumers the importance of monitoring their credit reports. The first webinar that we offered in the series was how to read and understand your credit report. And then the second one that we offered was titled The 5 Factors That Affect Your Credit Score. And today we'll be bringing you the final in the series, which is titled How to Protect Your Credit Score. If you happen to have missed either the first or the second or both of the first two webinars, we will email you a link along with the resources that we are going to be providing for you today after the webinar has ended. That way you can listen to the whole series. But during today's webinar, we are going to talk about things like warning signs of identity theft, ways your information could be compromised, how to take precautions in protecting yourself, credit monitoring. We're also going to talk to you a little bit about what a credit freeze is, and then at the end we'll give you some tips on what to do if you have been a victim of identity theft. And before we get started, I wanted to say that one of the things that the foundation has done with the Smart Credit Check campaign is they've put together not only a great presentation about credit reports and credit scores, but they've actually put together tons of resources. So the things that we're going to be talking about today, we're going to send you some handouts along with the presentation and the recordings. That way you can refer back to them, you can share them with others, and you'll have just tons of information to go by to lead you in the right direction to protecting your credit score. And we have a poll question for you today. And the question is, according to the Federal Trade Commission, what percentage of credit reports contain errors? A, 20%, B, 35%, C, 28%, or D, 15%. And I will give you just a few seconds to make your choices, and then I'll let you know what the answer is. If you said A, 20%, you are correct. So let's first of all start off by talking about warning signs that maybe identity theft or some type of fraudulent activity has happened to you. Inaccuracies on your credit report could be simple reporting errors, but it could also be an indication that you are a victim of identity theft. So if you're looking at your credit report and you see something on there that maybe you're not familiar with, it could be just an error. And usually they're pretty easy to fix. We know that people have the same names, we know they have similar names, we have juniors and seniors, so it could be something as simple as that. But it could be an indication that fraudulent activity has occurred. 13.1 million cases of identity theft was reported in 2013, and everybody that can hear me out there today, as well as myself, we need to be aware that we are all at risk that this could happen to us. Also, to unknown transactions on your current accounts. We know in this day and age we love technology and we love to sign on to online banking. We also have apps on our smartphone that can allow us to check our savings accounts, checking accounts, credit card accounts, different things like that. And normally the first thing that we do is we check our balance. But it is so important for you not to only look at your balance, but actually look at the transactions that are going on in your account, because this could be a sign if something shows in your history. It could be a sign that somebody has somehow gotten a hold of a debit card number or maybe even a credit card number. And a lot of times what fraudsters will do in the very beginning is do small transactions and kind of build up to larger amounts. But smaller transactions in amounts are sometimes harder to detect because you're not necessarily looking for them. So just be careful that you do monitor your accounts, not just look at your balance. And also too, if you're receiving past due calls that aren't yours, sometimes you get a new phone, and along with that new phone you get a new phone number. And it could have belonged to someone in the past that maybe had creditors calling them. So it could be you're getting these calls based on somebody else's information, but it could also mean that someone has opened an account in your name and you were unaware of that. Now you're getting past due calls. So if you do get a past due call, get as much information as you can, of course without giving them any information back, to be sure that it's something that belongs to you. And also too, another indication that someone could have stolen your identity would be a change in frequency of mail. Maybe you're not getting your bills over the last couple of months. Maybe you know what you were getting in the mail before, you're no longer seeing that show up in your mailbox. So somebody could have definitely changed your address, and now they're receiving your mail in hopes that they can get a piece of mail with some kind of personal information so they could commit some kind of fraudulent activity against you. And then also too, medical bills or insurance claims. If you start receiving medical bills or even something from your insurance where a claim has been filed and you know you haven't been to the doctor and you know you haven't visited the emergency room recently, this could also be an indication that someone could be using your private information. We also recommend that once a year you do go to the Social Security Administration website and just be sure your income and employment information are accurate. If you have income reporting that you don't recognize, this could be an indication that someone is using your information. And that website address will be a part of the resources that we'll send you, so you'll have that once you get all that information. And also, too, according to Javelin Strategy and Research, 1 in 4 people involved in a data breach will become a victim of identity theft. So if you have ever received a notice that your information could have been compromised, take it very seriously. Order your free credit report and carefully monitor existing accounts. And we're going to talk about that free credit report in just a few minutes as we get closer to the end of the webinar. A lot of people, or most people, know that you can get a copy of your free credit reports, but some consumers still don't know that, and that's why we're having the Smart Credit Check campaign. So we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. And then let's talk about ways your information can be compromised. Of course, there's the conventional methods, which include lost or stolen wallets. You know, that's kind of been around, it seems like, forever. You lose your wallet, somebody picks it up, and maybe they're not so much of an honest person and they take private information out of that. Or someone can just steal your information by taking your wallet or your purse. Also, too, mailbox and trash theft, which is also known as dumpster diving. If you live maybe in a community or a private subdivision where your mailbox is not at the house, maybe it's located somewhere else, people, of course, can drive up to a row of mailboxes and look at them and take private mail from someone who may have personal information. So just be aware that that can happen, as well as people sifting through trash. it's very important that you dispose of items that you don't want anybody to see personal information. Make sure you dispose of them properly, and one of the handouts will talk to you about that today. Also, too, someone may try to get your social security number by pretending to be a potential employer or even maybe a landlord. Both of these companies, or a private landlord, of course, they will look at your credit report to see how well you've managed your finances, and in order to pull a credit report, you need a social security number. So just be careful that you know who you're dealing with, if it's a potential employer or even a landlord that maybe you want to rent from. Before giving them the information, you'll want to do research to be sure that they are legitimate individuals. And also, too, sometimes business record theft. There could be hacking of a corporate database, and even sometimes there's employees on the inside of a company that will steal information and use it for their benefit. Also, too, hacking your home computer to obtain information from the computer that maybe you have stored on there. There's also what we call shoulder surfing, using a cell phone camera to gain personal information. Also, to public Wi-Fi. Always be very careful when you're using public Wi-Fi. Don't visit sites where you would enter or view any kind of personal information. Kind of think about public Wi-Fi as being similar to using a CB or even a walkie-talkie radio conversation. Like CBs and walkie-talkies, Wi-Fi networks operate on public airways. So anyone nearby you can tune in. So kind of think about it like that, that if you're putting in personal information on public Wi-Fi, someone else may be able to see that. And then phishing and farming messages. With a phishing message, you receive an email that appears to originate maybe from your financial institution, a government agency, or other businesses that warn you about something urgent. Maybe, for example, you get an email from your financial institution and they say your account's about to be closed. What they're attempting to get you to do is to click on that message, and in that email message, it's going to direct you to a site that looks legitimate, but it may not be. And then they'll ask you to either put in an account number, social security number, maybe even a PIN number, something that they can use to benefit themselves. And with a farming message, it redirects you to an illegitimate website instead of the website that you want. It looks very similar, but it's been as what we call a spoofed website. So it's not the legitimate website, but it is a fake website. And then you may get an email message, or you may even get some type of message within the website, and it's actually a virus, and it will try to take control of your computer and get personal information. So just be careful when you receive any type of a phishing message or even some type of a farming message, not to put in private information. And we do have a handout for that today as well, so you can find that in your resources, and it'll give you even more information. So we are going to talk a little bit about taking precautions, how to protect your information. This is one of the great handouts that you will receive today. There's several different ways in each of these categories of how to protect yourself. I'm going to hit on a few, but I really do recommend that you read this particular handout, because it's just great ways to protect yourself. So like, for example, in public, just always be aware of your surroundings. Make sure you safeguard your wallets, your purses, checkbooks, and even accounts. We talked about shoulder surfing earlier. You know, you're using maybe a debit card. Just be very careful when you have it laying out on the right beside the machine, that little area where you can lay it down, because if somebody's behind you taking a picture, they could definitely get your debit card number. So just be very careful with that. Also, too, at home, and again, I said we'll talk about this, but pull your credit report at least once annually. We recommend 3 times, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail, but at least make sure you're pulling your credit report annually. Make sure you secure important documents, shred statements. One of the things that we do here at DCCU in the fall as well as the spring is we offer shred days to our communities because we want people to keep their personal information safe. So you can visit myDCCU.com and you can check out the dates and locations and times for our fall shred days. They should be on the website, and we highly recommend, if you are in our area, to take advantage of the shred days. And also, too, online, if you have a home computer, you need to install antivirus software and update it as frequently as possible. Don't let it run out after the subscription, maybe after a year or whatever you buy it for. Make sure you keep it updated, because sure enough, it runs out. It's possible that a virus can happen and somebody can take control of your computer and get that private information. And then on social media, I just want to point out that one of the things that I think is so important if you're on social media is not to let everyone know if you're going on vacation or you're going to be out of town for an extended period of time. Don't post that information, because someone who is a fraudster could start checking out your mailbox, or even possibly try to break into your home to obtain personal information that they would be able to use for their benefit. And then the next thing I want to talk about is credit monitoring. We're going to talk about credit monitoring in 2 different ways. One type of credit monitoring you pay for because you let someone else do it. And then there's the other type that you don't necessarily have to pay for, that you can do on your own. And we're going to kind of talk about some scenarios that might be best for you. And then, of course, you have to make that choice for yourself. But just to give you some information, and first of all, credit monitoring would be the type that you pay for. You allow one of the 3 credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian. There's other companies as well that offer credit monitoring. You may pay anywhere from $10 to $20 a month for this. What happens is this particular company will monitor your credit report, and they will let you know of any type of new accounts that have been opened, any type of inquiries, which means that someone has pulled your credit and is reviewing it for maybe a loan decision. Major changes, like maybe there's been an address change on your credit report, or maybe an employer has been reported on your credit report. These types of things will be what you get from a credit monitoring company. And like I said, you do have to pay for it. So it could cost you close to $200 a year. One of the things that I do want to point out is, if you're getting these notifications from the credit monitoring company and they say, hey, this new account's been opened, well, if you didn't open it, the fraud has already happened. So, you have to kind of weigh that difference out. Is, worth paying this much money a month, and it's going to happen or possibly happen anyway. So, think about that. A lady that I worked with several years ago, she asked me, she said, do you think that it's important to pay a company to monitor your credit? And I found out that she travels a lot. She doesn't have time to get on a computer and pull her credit report and look at it, and sometimes she said she didn't really even have a whole lot of time to look at her bank statement. She'd log on, every maybe week or even every 2 weeks, because she was just so busy in her job. And I said, for somebody like that, that might be a reason to have somebody else monitor your credit, and you have to pay for it. If you're someone who loses sleep at night, and you're worried that someone's going to steal your identity, they're going to steal your information, they're going to make a mess of all that work that you've done over the years to have a nice clean credit report and have a nice high credit score. If you're one of those people, maybe it's worth it. You just kind of have to weigh that difference out. But you can do it on your own, and it is free. And so let's talk about doing it yourself, credit monitoring. And in 2003, there was an amendment to the Fair Credit Reporting Act that allows all U.S. consumers to receive a free credit report from each of the 3 major credit reporting agencies in a 12-month time. And again, the credit reporting agencies are Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. And those 3 came together along with the Federal Trade Commission, and a website was made and is monitored by these companies that you can get a free copy of your credit report. So let's go to the site, because I always like to show you what it looks like. There's a lot of different companies out there that say, hey, get your free credit report. And then you find out at the end you have to pay for it, or maybe even in the beginning they ask for a credit card number. So just be very careful, but no, annualcreditreport.com is the site that you need to go to get your 3 free credit reports, and it is authorized by federal law. So let's look at it. Let's go out here and see what it looks like. And you notice here that the address is annualcreditreport.com. And as you move your page, you'll see it's brought to you by Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. And then as you request your free credit report, it's going to ask you for some, of course, personal information, one of them being your Social Security number. You don't need to be worried about putting in that information, because again, this is a website that is maintained by these 3 credit reporting agencies as well as the Federal Trade Commission, so it is a safe site. And what I normally would recommend is staggering your requests throughout the year. For example, maybe order a free credit report, we'll just say from Experian. It doesn't really matter what order it is, but we'll just say Experian in January, then order a free one from Equifax in May, and then closer to the end of the year you can get the one from TransUnion. That way you're monitoring your credit report over the course of the whole year, and then when the next year starts over, you do it again. Like I said, you're not spending the money, you're able to see what's out there, and then if something happens, then of course you can dispute it with the credit reporting agencies, and we have a very nice handout for you on that as well, what to do if it does happen to you. And then the next type of credit monitoring, in a sense, is what we call a credit freeze. And what a credit freeze does, it blocks access to your credit report. You as the consumer, you need to be the one to request this. But a credit freeze simply prevents new creditors or third parties who are not exempt under law from accessing your credit file. Current creditors, for example, let's say you have a credit card with a certain financial institution. You have a relationship with them. So every year at annual review time, they're going to pull your credit, they're going to look at what your credit score is to determine what your rate will be for the next year. Now, they are able to look at your credit report because you've already made that relationship with them. And then government agents can still have access to your credit report. Because a lender won't open new lines of credit without viewing your score first, this can prevent fraudsters from opening new accounts in your name. So that's really the purpose of having a credit freeze. Now, just know that fees may apply, and you would have to put a credit freeze on each of or with each of the agencies, and it can cost maybe about $10 depending on which credit reporting agency we're talking about. But what happens is once you put the credit freeze on there, you are given a PIN number that will allow you to remove the freeze or to lift the freeze temporarily. So by putting the freeze on there, it doesn't affect your credit score. And it doesn't mean that you can't obtain new credit. It just means if you want to, maybe you're going to buy a new car and you need a car loan, or maybe you're looking for a mortgage and you want to apply for a mortgage loan. Doesn't mean you can't do that if the freeze is on there, but it means you have to lift the freeze. And what I normally would recommend is, because you pay each of the credit reporting agencies to put the freeze on there, find out from your lender what credit reporting agency they use to pull your credit, and then just contact that particular agency and say, hey, I need a freeze lifted. Now, again, it may cost you if you lift the freeze, and it could be, again, about $10. So this is not completely free, but it is a cheaper way than using a credit monitoring system every month. Now, if you have been a victim of identity theft, then putting a credit freeze is free. And then credit freeze laws vary by state, but since I believe all of us are probably in the state of Virginia, there is the state of Virginia doesn't have a statute on this. So the 7 years that could be for other states doesn't apply to the state of Virginia. And then what happens if you are a victim? Well, what we recommend, and we do have a great handout, it's 2 pages, but you'll have it as a resource should you need it. We do recommend that if you can close your accounts, you can file an identity theft affidavit with the Federal Trade Commission, which is a great organization that fights against fraud. That's one of their main purposes. Also, to file a police report. If somebody has stolen your identity or opened a fraudulent account in your name, a crime has been committed, but you do have to file the police report in the area that the crime happened. And then, of course, you need to get copies of that because you need to send it on to the creditors that it happened with. Otherwise, if you don't notify these creditors and let them know what's happened, they just think you're not paying your bills. They don't know that it was a fraudulent account open. So be sure that you are communicating with them and sending them copies of everything so they are aware that investigation and other steps that need to happen are currently going on. And then also to place a fraud alert on your credit report, and what that means is you let the credit reporting agencies know that a fraudulent activity has happened. They place a fraud alert on your account. So if someone tries, or even if you try to obtain new credit, extra steps will be taken before that can happen to ensure that you are the person that's applying for the credit. Also notify Social Security Administration and the IRS. Reset passwords and PINs, and we do have an excellent handout today that will give you guidance in how you should be choosing your passwords. And then the last thing that sometimes people don't really think about is check your child's credit report. Their information could have been compromised or stolen, and it's possible that someone can obtain credit or some kind of service in your child's name. So you would go to annualcreditreport.com, put in their information. If it says no credit report on file, that's great because that's what you want to see. But if there is a credit report, you'd still have to follow the same steps if that happens to your child. And then one of the last handouts that we're going to have for you is just some additional resources. There are organizations out there that can help you, that can give you even more information than what we've provided for you today. And in that handout, it will be, of course, their name as well as their contact information. The Federal Trade Commission. There's also a fraud unit for the big three, and when we refer to the big three, of course, that's the credit reporting agencies. And On Guard Online, Consumers Union, the Attorney General of Virginia, and then the Privacy Rights Clearinghouse. So you'll have information on all of these different organizations. And that is really all that I have for you today. I want to say that you have really worked hard to build a great credit report, have a high credit score. You've really worked hard to obtain these things, and you don't want to let someone come along that wants to damage that for you. So I hope we have provided the information that you need today to keep yourself safe, and we will go to questions now. So if you have any kind of questions, type them in your question box, and hopefully we'll be able to answer them. But be on the lookout this afternoon. Sometime you should be getting the presentation, as well as the resources and handouts that we've talked about, and then the other recorded webinars. And it doesn't look like we have any questions today, so I want to thank you again for joining us, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you.